They came to do battle on the final day of the UAE Tour. All jerseys up for grabs. But the big climb to Jabal Hafit at the end of a flat day, well, it was going to be a stage for yet more drama, mainly due to the wind that was going to blow up. Temperatures high as well, on a sinuous course that doubled back on itself almost as a constant. Crosswinds there would be, big splits out there on the road as well. But who would be the main players at the very beginning and the end of what has been an amazing day and an amazing stage as well? 2 intermediate sprints and then the big kicker at the very last, Jabal Hafit. Almost every time we've been here, whoever wins on the big climb wins the entire thing. Well, Tadej Pogačar rolled out, so did Lenny van Eetvelt for Lotto, defending champion here. And the official start, of course, it was going to be mainly a feature, I think, for Solution Tech, Vini Fantini. They wanted to be up in the break just to make sure that nothing silly happened for Duric's black jersey. Something silly did happen, however. Such was the pace and indeed a compact nature of the peloton. Raised street management had a big impact. Chris Froome, one of those that was hurt. Several riders on at the deck, including Josh Tarnling in the Young Riders classification lead. The race went on without them, and sadly 3 riders were out of the race, including of course Chris Froome. Well, the pace was at its highest. The peloton now were trailing our breakaway by some standard. But the splits came as the wind blew. 26 kilometres an hour, due south it was, but the crosswinds, well, it meant that we had ourselves a reassembly of what had been already a fighting force up front of 12. They were joined by a group including Tadej Pogačar and many of the favourites. Green jersey was starting to look back. He'd been in the initial break and indeed was hoping to make sure that that green jersey was not going to go anywhere else. He came to the line. A little bit of slewing across the road. Rob Heiss was involved, getting into Duric in the black jersey. He fought back with his shoulder and was actually to be knocked down. The results here had points taken off him. A little bit of aftus, as they argued. Milan securing green and Duric ultimately, of course, taking that black jersey. Well, nerves perhaps starting to fray amongst our front group. They settled themselves down, and indeed now it became a super group with Tadej Pogačar part of a 43 rider breakaway that started to impose itself on those that had missed out. Van Eetvelt had missed out. A few others as well found themselves in the wrong part of the course, including Jay Vine, erstwhile Mountains super domestique for Tadej Pogačar himself. He still had 2 teammates up front. Up there was Romeo, Ciccone, not this man Van Eetvelt, who was out of position. Bilbao was up front, Finn Fisher Black likewise, Onley, Tejada. Some real quality to do some damage at the very last. Second intermediate sprint. Sumidia wanted to move into second place in the black jersey competition behind Duric. The green jersey, though, yet more points going the way of Milan. Malia came up as well, expecting a little bit of chit-chat and banter from Milan, but Malia just keeping it straight-faced and making sure they finished second in the green jersey competition. All about Jabal Hafit, and indeed how the attrition rate would reveal itself to us. Tadej Pogačar called for pace. He had 2 men to burn down. Not Jay Bine, you understand, but Harrogats certainly was to be the last man standing for Tadej. Others just starting to fray, I'm afraid, and no surprise. This was a very tough day. Josh Tarling, who'd been on the deck earlier on, as we mentioned. White jersey was not going to be a major function at the very end. Functioning is one thing, delivering is another, and Tadej Pogačar absolutely went for it. Trying to stay with him, Ciccone. Also along for the ride was Oscar Onley from Picnic Post NL. Everybody else looked like they'd been caught out at this time. How would they function? Finn Fisher Black trying to stay with them. He was, of that front quartet, first to be distanced. The duo hanging on for dear life behind. Tadej Pogačar was Onley, battling royally, and also Ciccone, the Italian in the frame, hoping to move up in the overall classification. Well, they started to tempo behind. Finn Fisher Black was about to be collected by the spirited Pello Bilbao, and indeed Ivan Romeo had a teammate in Pablo Castrillo, the big hard man for Movistar. They were trying to bridge over. Pogačar had gone. It was about minor places for everybody else, but places within the top 10 as well still had to be decided. It was a tremendous battle, a great show of force by Tadej Pogačar, who possibly would have gone a little bit later had he had Jay Vine with him to moderate his efforts and maybe feather it in later on. Didn't have that luxury. Only about to be collected. Pello Bilbao getting a free magic carpet ride, it seemed, from Castrillo and Romeo from Movistar. Pogačar, though, clean and gone. And indeed, thank you very much, said Pello Bilbao. Rounding he went, as indeed Castrillo had done his job. He went pop. Even Romeo trying to chase on. Bilbao bridging over to Ciccone. Meanwhile, with 1,400 metres to go, into the little dish towards the reception area went this man. And what a dish it turned out to be. A 5-star menu, as always, for Tadej Pogačar. And then the race on for minor places. Ciccone bringing it in. Bilbao would get third place on the day, both of whom enhancing their positions in the overall classification. And the clock began to toll upon everybody. It had been a tough day. Romeo, brilliant work by him, finishing 4th across the line. And then we waited to find out how things would pan out for the overall. Tadej Pogačar eased up towards the line, won by over 30 seconds by the end of the day. 33, in fact, ahead of Pello Bilbao on 35. Ciccone nearest man to Pogačar. Romeo 4th ahead of Onley, Castrillo, Fisher Black, The Surf and Conrad. We have our champion. It is Tadej Pogačar. Overall, he was just such a dominant force. There is no arguing. When this man opens the box at the beginning of the season, there is some very, very select sweets for us to enjoy. Green jersey, of course, going and resting upon the shoulders of Jonathan Milan. Well, spectacular scenery, great racing once again.